For most of human history, conquest was loud. Empires marched in with banners raised high, boots on the ground, flags in the rubble. In Iraq, over $2 trillion spent, more than 160,000 troops deployed, hundreds of thousands of civilian lives lost. What followed wasn't democracy, it was disorder, a power vacuum, sectarian bloodshed, the birth of ISIS, and in Afghanistan, 2 decades of occupation, trillions spent, thousands dead, only for the Taliban to retake power in 11 days. That wasn't a withdrawal, it was an admission. The age of traditional occupation is over. Now, conquest doesn't wear camouflage. It wears a suit and a keyboard, no more battalions, just satellites, proxies, and psychological warfare. No soldiers, no funerals, no headlines, just collapse by remote control. Welcome to Regime Change 2.0, where the battlefield isn't land. It's infrastructure, memory, and belief. The mission is no longer to invade, it's to implode from within. A quiet, systemic strategy designed to destabilize a nation without ever stepping foot inside. Step 1. Target the brain. Remove the architects, the neurons, the minds. Kill the scientists. Eliminate nuclear engineers. Decapitate the chain of command, not just physically, but psychologically. Because every death sends a signal. We can reach you, anywhere, anytime. Step 2. Starve the heart, crush the economy without firing a shot. Block medicine, sanction fuel, freeze foreign reserves. People don't see the foreign hand. They blame their own leaders for the pain, the hunger, the broken promises. This is not a side effect, it's the intended outcome. Step 3. Infect the voice, corrupt the national narrative. Hijack the people's story with digital disinformation, fake protests, fake defectors, fake casualties. All timed, all calculated. And when real protests emerge, flood the space with noise, so truth becomes just another rumor. Psychological term, cognitive saturation. When the mind can no longer distinguish fact from fabrication, confusion becomes control. Step 4. Break the spine. Quietly fund opposition groups, amplify grievances, and when the pressure peaks, leak weapons into demonstrations. Let the unrest escalate. Let the bloodshed look homemade. This is engineered chaos, a collapse that feels self-inflicted. Because if it looks internal, no one sees the foreign hand behind the curtain. This is war, rewritten for the digital age. No armies, no invasions, no accountability. Only a nation turned against itself. The old playbook was expensive, loud, and bloody. War used to be an announcement. Now it's a whisper, heard only by those it's meant to break. Visual cost ticker. Iraq War, $2 trillion. Afghanistan, $2.3 trillion. 7,000 plus U.S. troop deaths. Traditional invasions come with a price tag, both financial and political. Caskets coming home. Headlines screaming quagmire. Protests in the streets. Generations of PTSD. Regime Change 2.0, no boots, no press conferences, no accountability, just keyboards, sanctions, and digital smoke. It's cheaper, cleaner, and most importantly, deniable. No international tribunals, no occupation treaties, no war crimes investigations. Because technically, there is no war. We are not involved in any military operation. We support the Iranian people's struggle for freedom. They didn't drop bombs. They dropped economic collapse, disinformation, and doubt. And when the nation breaks, when civil war erupts, when leaders fall, when citizens flee, you don't call it conquest, you call it a failed state, a humanitarian crisis, an unfortunate consequence of internal mismanagement. You offer aid, loans, solutions, and sell it as salvation. Destroy the house, then sell them the bricks. That's the empire's new business model. When the empire looks for collapse, it doesn't start with chaos, it starts with precision. Because Iran isn't just a country, it's a target-rich ecosystem for a new kind of warfare. In 2020, a man was murdered on the streets of Tehran, not by rebels, not by mobs, but by an AI-controlled machine gun mounted on a Nissan, guided by satellite, triggered from 1,500 kilometers away. The message? We don't need to invade. We can erase you, digitally, remotely, surgically. These are not just attacks on people. They are attacks on knowledge, strategy, and national confidence. In 2010, the world's first military-grade computer virus, Stuxnet, infected Iran's Natanz nuclear facility. No bombs, no soldiers. just lines of code that spun centrifuges until they shredded themselves. Iran's nuclear program wasn't bombed, it was digitally gaslighted. That virus rewrote the rules of warfare and opened the floodgates. When bombs don't land, sanctions do. Iran's economy has been choked for over a decade, blocked access to SWIFT banking, frozen oil exports, restricted medicine imports. When insulin costs triple, when children die waiting for banned chemotherapy, that's not collateral damage, it's economic warfare, camouflaged as policy. And it doesn't just hurt the regime, it turns the people against it. Every real protest in Iran is now followed almost instantly by a shadow. You're not watching a revolution, you're watching a production, a psychological operation where real suffering is edited to sell foreign intervention. And yet, no one invaded Iran. No boots on the ground, just cyber weapons, targeted assassinations, and a broken economy. And when it all falls apart, you don't call it regime change, you call it the will of the people. Iran is not a war zone, it's a test lab for the future of invisible conquest, and every nation watching should take note. When a building burns down, the arsonist is the first to ask, who forgot to lock the door? In the modern regime change playbook, blame is the final tool, and the collapse? It's supposed to look like the people did it to themselves. When unrest breaks out, it's not always spontaneous. It's often timed, amplified, and reframed from the outside. Strategic actors leak weapons into hotspots. They fund both activists and agitators, blurring the lines between protest and riot. And when it all erupts, foreign media cameras are already rolling. Collapse becomes theater, and the villain is already written into the script, the government. What happens to real voices in the chaos? They're drowned out, silenced by the noise of manufactured violence. The message of freedom is hijacked by the imagery of anarchy. The student activist becomes a terror suspect. The elder protester becomes a foreign-backed insurgent. The truth is erased, so the solution can be sold. No one asks where the weapons came from. No one questions the timing of leaked intelligence. No one notices that the same slogans appear in every country that gets destabilized. Why? Because the collapse has a face. And it's not foreign, it's the angry protester, the corrupt official, the failing currency. It's been designed to feel internal, to look self-inflicted. So when the regime falls, there's no blame, just applause. While the world watches protests, deals are signed, infrastructure is privatized, natural resources are auctioned, national assets are sold at fire sale prices, and no one calls it exploitation. They call it recovery. Once the regime collapses, the story is rewritten instantly. It wasn't sabotage. It wasn't foreign meddling. It was the people finally rising up. History books will repeat the lie. Search engines will bury the truth. Children will grow up believing their nation failed on its own. The perfect crime is one the victim thinks they committed. No military, no invasion, no occupation. Just a nation that broke itself in a collapse so carefully engineered that the world applauded. Regime change used to come with boots. Now, it comes with stories. First comes the collapse, then comes the opportunity. But not for the people who suffered, for those who planned it. Because every engineered disaster creates a profitable recovery. They arrive like heroes, offering reconstruction, assistance, stability. But the contracts are already signed. Roads are rebuilt by Western firms. Telecom is handed to multinational investors. Oil reserves are leased in 30-year contracts with terms no one voted for. You lost a regime. They gained a marketplace. It starts with food, medicine, blankets. But the aid arrives with advisors, auditors, and armed escorts. NGOs become intel sources. Relief agencies become strategic outposts. This isn't generosity, it's soft occupation. And soon, foreign advisors are drafting your constitution, training your police, teaching media responsibility. Humanitarianism becomes a mask for management. The savior needs a face, a local one. So exiled elites are flown back. A transitional council is formed, made up of businessmen, Western-educated lawyers, and compliant former politicians. The media celebrates them as reformers. The people, they never got to vote. Democracy without the democracy. And the money, it never comes free. IMF loans arrive with brutal terms, slash public services, privatize national companies, remove subsidies on fuel and bread. Soon, the economy that collapsed from bombs is buried in debt chains. First they destroyed your roof, now they rent you the sky. Security, it's upgraded too, with foreign software funded by foreign investors, facial recognition on every corner, smart cities that watch more than they serve, intelligence agencies trained to spot extremism, which now includes dissent, protest, or memory. The occupier doesn't need boots when your government becomes their algorithm. Years later, the story will be retold, not as sabotage, not as invasion, but as liberation. A regime was overthrown, a democracy was born, and the foreign powers, they were just there to help. And just like that, the savior becomes the owner, and the people, just renters in their own homeland. They call it freedom, but it came with cameras, contracts, and chains. This is the price of modern regime change: collapse without occupation, salvation without sovereignty.